in a minute. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman as we continue with my conversation with Afghan activist Rangina Hamidi. I reached her in Kandahar and asked her to talk about the reaction to the deaths of the 3 Canadian troops in Afghanistan last week.
In our peace event, not yesterday, because we did not have much time to give women to really basically or to really voice their own personal opinions about it, because we had to go to a second event organized by the government agency. But last year, I heard a mother had lost her son due to a suicide bomber, and she got up to speak, and she said a beautiful thing. She said, whether it's a Talib who's being killed, an Afghan policeman who's being killed, or an international army military person who's being killed, he leaves behind a mother, a sister, or a daughter, and or a wife who mourns for them. So that saying was quite powerful in saying that women have this inclusive idea of security and owning peace. They stopping the killing for all, whether they're Afghan or not, is reason enough for them to wage peace. They mothers feel the pain of human beings, and they're calling for it, and they want this killing to stop. But it's very difficult for them to also understand that.
As we turn now to war, Vice President Joe Biden's in Brussels today to get NATO allies to support the U.S. surge in Afghanistan with more troops. The Obama administration's ordered 17,000 more U.S. troops to Afghanistan to fight as part of an escalation of the 7-year-old war. Meanwhile, in an interview with the New York Times, President Obama admitted the U.S. is not winning the war in Afghanistan. He also revealed the U.S. is considering reaching out to moderate elements of the Taliban, as he put it, much as it did with Sunni militias in Iraq. On Sunday, thousands of women across Afghanistan donned blue scarves and came together for a prayer for peace with justice. The gatherings marked International Women's Day. That night, I spoke with Rangina Hamidi. She is a former resident of the United States who returned to her native Afghanistan shortly after the 9/11 attacks. Today, she's president of Kandahar Treasure, the first woman-run business in her hometown of Kandahar, helping Afghan women sell locally made embroidery. I asked Rangina Hamidi about the significance of the International Women's Day in Afghanistan.
In Kandahar, we got together we got together last year and decided that as the government agencies have been celebrating International Day for Women, which falls on March 8th every year, we did not want to be necessarily celebrating the day when so many women were in mourning because they were losing a lot of their male relatives or male members of their families almost on a daily basis. So in 2008, on March 8th, the women in our network gathered together, more than 1,500 of them, to commemorate the day by praying for peace, because they've been in war for literally more than 30 years. And women are sick and tired of it, and they don't know, on a local level, they don't know any political figure locally or nationally and or even internationally that they can go to have their voices and have their plea be heard. So because this is a religious and a conservative society, the women said, who better to pray to about peace than God? These are all believing women, and so they gathered for the first time publicly to pray for peace. And it was not a program to necessarily get a lot of media. It was an event kind of almost ad hoc to expect the local government and the insurgents to hear the women's voice. And unexpectedly, a lot of media came and covered the event, and the women's voices were heard surprisingly all over the world. So in Kandahar yesterday, we had more than we had hundreds of women show up, and all of them were praying for peace. The age group, we probably had women in their 70s and as young as 10 and 12. Even babies came to our event with their mothers, and it was a very peaceful and a calm event. All of the women were wearing light blue scarves as a symbol of peace and stability that they'd chosen. And basically it was a short event, but an event full of a lot of meaning, because the women want the world to know that they're active in their pursuit, in their way of pursuing peace and stability, because a lot of the women know that the men, unfortunately, in our country, whether they're in politics or not in politics, be either businessmen or just men in society, it seems that men are not trying hard enough to ask for peace. And so the women have taken it upon themselves that because they have never been an active part of the wars in the past 30 plus years, they want to now be the active agents of calling for peace.
Rangina, right now, U.S. policy, President Obama announcing the surge in Afghanistan, tens of thousands of more troops being sent in. What does this mean for Afghanistan, and particularly Kandahar? I mean, in the last week, we've heard about the 3 Canadian soldiers that were killed. I don't know how many Afghan men, women, and children have been killed, but what about this policy?
Okay, that's a great question. In fact, last night we were at a friend's house for dinner, and I'll begin by quoting her directly. Her name was Shala, and she said, quote, "Every time someone from my household goes out, I accept in my heart that they may not come back." This is the kind of feeling and attitude that most Afghan people live with today. And she also, she was someone that you do not expect to have any political opinion or basically an opinion and an idea of the current situation. But she was very open to share her thoughts with us, especially when she pointed this after, quoting her, we continued talking to her, and then she surprisingly, she said when Obama was being elected to become president of the United States, there was hope in her family, and she said that I had hope that things might change, and things in terms of the military and political situation of Afghanistan. Because she said we don't want more killing to occur. But as Obama decided, obviously after being sworn in as president, that he will send more troops translate to more killing here. And so she was very unhappy about that decision. And this is not the decision only of her, but the decision of mine and or the opinion of mine and so many other people here who share this frustration that America needs to better focus on its strategy about what they're doing here and what they want to accomplish in Afghanistan. Merely sending more troops will not solve the problem. This is a political situation where, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, that for every one individual we kill, and often it's easy to claim that this is a Talib. We bombard a village and then say, well, we killed the Taliban. That's not necessarily true. A lot of innocent people get killed. The common people are stuck in the middle. So on the one hand, the Taliban or insurgents might come at the nighttime with guns and ammunition and force the village people to keep them, meaning give them housing, give them food. And when they do that, because they can't, ordinary people cannot fight back. In the morning, or it may be a day or two later, the military get reports that the Taliban or insurgents have come, and then they come and start bombarding. So when they bombard, the bombs are blind. They don't see who's Taliban, who's not. We can't differentiate between the ordinary people and the Taliban.